topic call today.
Welcome everyone to UX Happens in RVA. I'm Lisa Dance. I'm a user experience and customer experience strategy at ServiceE. And on UX Happens in RVA, we help you understand how friction points may be happening within your business that will lose you customers and revenue. And we give tips and advice on how to improve your user experience and customer experience so customers aren't frustrated. They stay, they spend money, and they have a good experience. So on today's show, Mike, we're going to talk about can't talk today. Friction, blind spots, and assumptions.
So, I mean, you may have had a hard time getting that out, but there's a lot of times business owners don't see the friction because they're in blind spots. And then all of a sudden something happens, and we're like, oh, wow. But if you look back, and I know you said like the decision are in the details, somewhere along the line, if you go back, you're like, I did see that. I did hear about that. So
Right.
you're blindsided because you weren't paying attention. In driving, you didn't have two hands at 10 and 2.
Right, and maybe you're not accumulating enough of the information to see a bigger pattern, right? You just solve that. If it turns into a crisis, you solve that crisis. You
Today,
react,
yes.
yes, and then, phew, and you move on, not connecting to maybe a larger pattern.
That's true. We put out the fire today.
Yes,
We didn't realize. So that was a big one that we put out today.
right,
We didn't know there was a smaller one last week because our employee didn't tell us something, and we didn't know that they put out a smaller fire. You know, Jimmy put out one last week. Sandy put one out on Tuesday. We don't know because they individually took care of it.
definitely, definitely. So today we'll talk a little bit about some signals, right?
Ooh.
That friction and, that leads to blind spots. And then you all the time make assumptions on what the root cause of the problem is, or assumptions on what's going to solve it, instead of maybe getting a little more deeper research before coming to a conclusion on how to solve it, right? So one of the ways is if you have on your website or app or any kind of tool that you have any kind of analytics, right? It's not going to tell you why, but it's going to show you things like if you got a huge drop off on a page that has a key call to action, and so people are landing on it, but they're not clicking that call to action button. That's a sign, right? That something they have enough interest to come to that page, but not enough to click and do the next step.
Not to complete what you wanted them to do.
Right. Also, it can be things like people come into forms but not finishing them, right? They ask you 85 questions, then people probably, are not filling out. Or you have an onboarding experience, so maybe you even got the purchase, but all of a sudden people, they never kind of go through the onboarding steps. So they had enough interest to purchase, but something stopped them from actually learning like how to best use the tool or site or something like that. So those are signals that in your analytics that you can look at. They don't tell you why, but they tell you, okay, might be an issue on this particular page or section.
Do we get to the point? So now, like, I've never been the one with the whole Amazon thing, but the Amazon, and back in the day, it was a lot to return something. Now, I mean, it is from hitting the door at the UPS store to back out the door. It may be 45 seconds. They really perfected that. And so you'll see, so when things work, they work. We're happy, they're good. I go one time and the person looks and says, you can't return that here. And I'm like, where else can you return it? Oh, well, you got to go to Whole Foods. I didn't know that was a thing. But I go to Whole Foods and the system works the same there. So when you're getting it right, you're getting it right.
Right. Yes.
But we don't even think about it because it worked right.
Right.
It's only when there's a friction point.
Well, that was a bit of a friction point because you weren't aware that that specific type of thing
Okay.
couldn't be.
Okay, madam. Now that could be, or it could be user error.
Oh,
Now certain things are user error
Right.
because somewhere on there, I think that it might have said where to return it to.
Right.
But because I'd gone to,
you went with what you normally do.
which is
Yes.
every time, I didn't know that you could go, you had to take it to somewhere else. So sometimes it could be user error, but I'm still upset because I think it's their fault.
Okay, yes. Well, sometimes there may be user error because people say, well, it's there, but is it there where the person can really see it?
Yes.
Now, sometimes people are not reading, but sometimes it's just not in the obvious place. And particularly so for this type, because it's not you couldn't return in the normal fashion, then it should have been really bold, really something to say. Do you know that you can't return it?
So you've been waving the flag and click to cancel before it became no. You were out there, like Johnny Appleseed, just letting people know. So now that's when you're saying it was easy when I signed up.
Right. Yes.
But that now to cancel, like you said, so if I can't find the button
Right.
or I can't find the information, it starts to cause some friction.
Right.
And you said sometimes the business owner is blindsided by what happened.
Well, that's a blind spot because they will often say, "Well, it's there," but they know it's there. Is it actually? They know it's there, so they know where to look. For someone who's not familiar with it, it may be there, but it's not in an obvious place, so they don't see it.
My workers, they see it. They see it.
Right.
Well,
Because you told them where it was. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you test with people who don't know, the app or your website or any of these types of things, your portal, because they're going to instinctively know where things are because they worked and planned and designed it, or they know that their test function is supposed to be there.
so ladies and gentlemen, this is Lisa Dan. She is our UX expert. So really quickly, and I always joke and say, you're not having the conversation that you have necessarily with the IT department. They're partly IT, but there's business. This is holistically affecting the business.
Right, because oftentimes what they see is we had a goal. We were going to sell this many things or get this many signups or donations, and they maybe not meeting that, right? So that's where it may come up in it. Now, maybe a technology or software change or something that can resolve it, or it's the issue. But really, where they often see it is in the impact of the problem.
So that's why you have to be talking to a person at a certain level to get the impact that it has. It could be sales, it could be operations, it could be marketing. Somewhere along the line, there are friction points.
Yes.
Okay.
Something they're trying to achieve, and it's maybe and they're not seeing the results that they want. That can be like a signal of why somebody wants to have a conversation. With me. Yes.
How can people find information about Lisa Dance?
On my website is serviceease.net. That's ease with a S on it, or LinkedIn at Lisa D. Dance.
Service ease, because we want and need to make service easy to reduce friction points.
Right. Particularly because for your customer, you want them to either use or buy your product or service. And so, it needs to be easy for it because, who wants to buy anything that's hard or difficult to use?
You really got to want it to jump
you
through
really,
hoops. Have you bought something that you wanted so bad that you jumped through hoops?
Yes.
I have.
Yes. You
get it,
Right.
but man, did I have to cut my hand off
Right.
Yeah, but you wanted it.
Right. Yes.
But now, do we buy it a second time after we go through that, or?
Right. No,
Yeah.
it's probably more, to me, is more exception than the rule, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't need any more things to do on my plate that's difficult, right?
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Lisa, that's why Service Ease is the name,
Yes,
because we're
definitely.
reducing friction points.
Right, definitely. And I illuminate on those friction points and those blind spots that you may be making and assumptions. So another way that is a signal of friction or there may be a problem is if you have to create a lot of workarounds. So, I don't know if you have seen some websites sometimes where it's a button or something, and then they will have put like scroll down or something like that because people obviously have missed that button, right? So you shouldn't have to have instructions to get to where a button is on. It should be in the obvious place. And this was a big thing when websites a lot were having the homepage would be just like a image or a video running, right? And people didn't know there was a button up, down, because it filled the whole screen up under. So they would have to put like arrows and things like that to tell you to scroll down and stuff like that. No, it should be obvious. So then they started modifying it and having that, image or a video so it doesn't go to the full bottom of the screen. So there's some space for the button or other information. So when you start having workarounds like that on screen, then there's a problem because it's not obvious what the next step is.
So, I've been a salesperson. So you're talking about things on the website, you're thinking about things in an app, talking about things. People sometimes, your employees can cause friction points
Right.
because we work around the workarounds.
Yeah.
The workaround says, sales, we want to hit this quota. Well, the normal flow says that job that we sold costs $100,000 and it takes 3 weeks. That's the system.
Right.
That's the optimal way of doing it. I don't have 3 weeks. The client don't have 3 weeks. They said, and on top of that, hey, that's a little expensive. Can we do it for 90,000? And we may say yes. We go get the approval, and we go to the sales manager type person. Yes, do it. And they need it in 10 days.
Right.
We think along the same lines, which is, yeah, we can do this. Now, instead of it being putting it into the CRM or into the system, we go over to Janie's desk and be like, hey, Janie, I know how long it takes to do it for the most part, I think. Can you get, sure, I can get it done. That just circumvented the system.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, in sales, a lot of times we call it one-offs. When one-offs become the norm,
Right.
something is wrong.
Right, and you hit on a big thing because we've been talking a lot of times. We're talking about customers, but there's user experience as far as like your employees as well, and probably I would hazard to say that when that design and that process was developed and implemented, they probably did not do enough observation of how the process actually works with employees to start with. So it was designed not really for the circumstances in which employees work. You know what I mean?
That is true,
Yeah.
because it was designed that it's going to take 3 weeks.
Right.
Now, the employees, which are people, this is why AI bots will never take over. They're not going to think like us, which is, I'm just going to go over to Lisa's desk. Hey, Lisa, I really need this. Can you make it happen? And you're going to say, sure.
Right.
And you do your thing. Something that would have taken 3 weeks, all of a sudden it took 20 minutes.
Right.
But now it broke something along the way.
Right.
Operations now is upset because something that they had to do, now all of a sudden we had scheduled it. So there can be internal friction points because of people.
Right.
And so we've been talking about user experience. This is the employee user experience in-house.
Right.
And sometimes that comes back to bite you.
Right.
And you get blindsided by that friction point.
Definitely. And so that indicates, like, far as solutioning, is that when you're designing processes or going to implement new software, you need to have a cross section of employees who actually use it involved in in deciding which system it is or how the design is, and of course, management and all, have the final say on what's in budget and all of that type of thing. But as far as the operational pieces of it, a lot of times they'll have someone who's a manager, but they haven't actually touched that software in
No.
3 years. And so they don't have that knowledge of how the processes and everything work. So when you have more of a cross section of people who either you maybe have interviewed them to find out, and then you have good requirements for what they need, and then also having them involved in like looking at demos and doing some testing before you make a decision. That's going to get you a lot closer, because one, you're going to mail what manager levels need far as their requirements, because they, it's reporting and all those things that they need, and it has to have a certain cost. And then there's that technology piece that IT needs to know, but then how it actually is used, that's where the employees that are actually using it can bring the most value.
So having Lisa Dance as a consultant helps us friction points regardless of where they are.
Yes.
It does not matter whether it's the user, whether it are rogue employees, because I have been there.
Right.
It's like it's easier to just go over to Jimmy and say, "Hey, can you tackle this problem?"
Right.
But now it's not reported back to management that that's happened in 3 different departments, 4 different times, that there's a problem.
Right.
So Lisa's there to help us, not just on the technology side, but on the people side as well.
Right. Yeah. To really understand how people are using it, so you have the best solution. Yes, definitely. So we talked about workarounds, far as like on the online, and then the employee experience. But another workaround that people organizations need to look at as a signal is, if you have like say a kiosk or a computer or something that people are using, and you see notes on it, use the red button, this only does this, all of those types of things around it, instructions that are like not on the screen or anything like that. That means that doesn't, like, the people who are using it can't just use it, just can't go up to it and use it, without an extra note. That's an indication that
we got a problem.
We got a problem, like that. And so, like, an example of it is, and I think a lot of people can relate to it, is how you go in a store and you use your debit or credit card in those machines, and every one of them is different. Some of them, they got a sign up there say, punch the yellow button if you want credit, or turn your Walgreens has it, which is the oddest one, that you have to turn your card upside down and stick it in there. So they have a sign up there about that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if it's not intuitive to something, you're just really sticking your card in and pushing a button, and then it's a problem, because it's all of them have different notes and stuff like that. And some of them are actually on the screen itself, but a lot of times there are notes around telling you. Have you seen that?
Yes, and that's the problem, because each one is different, and there's a line, and the frustration starts to go up. Or either, like you said, the cashier, the rep comes up to you, don't worry about it. It happens all the time.
Yeah. I've seen them
That's
come
a
out.
problem.
Yeah, it happens all the time. That's an indication. It happens all around. They have to come out from behind the cashier and sometimes and help people do it, because it's not.
But The problem is it happens all the time.
Right.
Who did we tell? Who asked us? How often? How often does that happen?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
No, we're just trying to keep the line down
Yeah.
and keep it moving, and we forgot about that, and we went on to the next fire to put out.
Right. And then, you know, the thing about that particular example is the issue is, you know, steps away. I mean, as you know, many steps away because, you know, these terminals are, you know, third party, you know, somebody, a company has designed them. And so it's one person has this type of terminal in this store, and another company has this type of terminal in this store, and it's no uniformity across
Right.
those type of people. So it's not a, you know, like the store itself can't resolve it, but it's still an example of how user experience and those workarounds show up and indicate it's a problem.
So the fix for a lot of that is the research and the data, knowing
Right.
why. We just don't know because it's like the lifelong argument between sales and marketing. Marketing, you know, sales says, man, our marketing collateral is the worst. If we had something better, we'd sell better. Marketing saying, I don't know, you got them stiffs over there as salespeople. You must have the worst ones. We don't know, but we just know we're not getting to the bottom. So maybe it's not the salespeople. Maybe it's not the marketing people. The marketing is bringing things in. Sales is trying to close. But somewhere along the line, there's a friction point that we need to fill out one of those forms that has 4,000 words. And remember before you were just like, yes, I read it. Now they make you hit the button, scroll right to the bottom, and now you can sign. You didn't read that. You just gave away your life.
Right.
But you needed to get that.
You need to get to the next point with it.
And they're making me.
Yes, definitely. I think that would be interesting if a study of how long it would take to actually read all of these things that
Who's
you
going to
have.
do that?
Yeah. And
I mean, I'm sure there is somebody.
but yes.
But it ain't me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it ain't most people.
And I think, you know, this kind of going off topic, but I do think that there's a point of customers are obligated to these things that they sign, but those things are so long, even when they say they're in plain language, are very hard to understand. It's like you're asking them to agree to something that is there really that capacity to be able to agree to it, as far as to say you're going to read it and understand it, right?
No, we're not going to.
And you're not going to consult your lawyer for you know, a $9 a month something, right? Like, because it's so many $9 or so many, or even for free things. You're not going to consult your lawyer for a free thing, right? And especially when you're doing that, you know, 50 or 100 times a week, sometimes it seems like, or at least a month, right? So just a side topic to say that I don't know how we got here.
I don't know.
But
with me,
yeah.
you know, this is my soapbox. This is because I'm one, me and the self-checkout, I try my hardest. I don't work here. You know, I don't know, you know, what this code is, what are these peaches. I don't know you know, I got to take it out and look at a number and it doesn't work. And then I got to hold my hand up like I'm in school.
Right.
And person's going to come over after they've gone to 4 other people. It's too much. It's asking me to do too much.
Right.
That's your friction point.
Right.
You know, if I see 20 registers and there's only 2 that have people at them, we've gotten to the point now where we just might accept it. But that's a friction point.
Right. Definitely. Absolutely.
So, soapbox, I'm stepping down off the soapbox, man.
That's okay. That's okay. So let's talk about another signal of customer friction and blind spots is when you're feeling like employees are always saying, or you're always saying, the customers don't understand how they're not doing it right.
The customer.
The customer, they're not doing it right. It's easy. I don't know why they don't see it. You know, like you're keep saying that there's a pattern that more than one customer is experiencing this, and if more than one customer is experiencing this, and maybe it's a pattern, then let's start to look at that, right? Because they aren't coming up there just closing their eyes to
No.
just,
They don't want to
To
be
work.
there at that point either. They wanted what they wanted, and now we
Yeah.
got to go through this.
Yeah. So therefore, if you feel you start to hear that a lot, and you're saying it yourself, or you're hearing staff to say that, then that's indicating that there is something probably in what they're supposed to be doing that they aren't understanding, aren't seeing.
But that's going to take a person with vision at some point, because that fix may affect 3 departments, and nobody's going to be happy. Somebody's going to complain about why do we need to do this? It doesn't affect me and my department, and the person has to be above that to say, yeah, but it affects the bottom line.
The bottom line pays your paycheck.
Yes.
Yes. And that's a big thing that I would like to get out about the work that I do, is that these problems affect people far away from where the friction happens, right? And so either they may sometimes be the cause of it, right? Because they may be like, finance has a particular policy about how payments and something happen and stuff like that that's causing friction here, maybe because it's just not understood well, but they're way far away from where that payment transaction happens, right? But if there's a lot of friction and it's not being resolved, then it affects everybody in the business if revenue goes down. And it's wonderful when things are going well, and people can sometimes will ignore these
Of
things.
course.
But businesses have ups and downs, and when you're having a down, it's really hard to try to get out of that down when you have when customers have already been frustrated with you, and some have already left, right?
Here's the thing in sports: it said winning cures all. It does.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as we're winning,
Yeah.
or we don't like each other, all those things. But when we start losing, we run into a problem.
Yes.
The problem shows up even more. There are friction points.
Right.
Friction points are sometimes overlooked when the money's rolling in. We're
Right.
good.
Yes. Why worry about
Not
it?
worry about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
But if people are dropping off as you're not worried about it, and it's really hard to get people back.
Yes.
Yes.
And people, it's harder to find a new customer than to keep it on. But the money's rolling in.
Right. So
But that person complies. Okay.
yes, right. And you can look at it in different industries and stuff like that. When things were going really well, they weren't necessarily
No.
paying attention to customers. But now that things are not going well, they're trying to do all of these things, but they've lost a lot of people.
Sometimes you can be blindsided to the point that it's fatal for the business.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it just does more than hurt. Like you said, that problem with payments and all that is 3 departments away,
Okay.
but it affects everyone. And now somebody has to look up and say, what are we going to do? Because we got some tough decisions that have to be made.
Right. Definitely. And like that payment one, it's affecting. So it happened at the payment transaction screen, or if somebody's paying in person or whatever. But it's the frontline people, either in person or on calls, who are getting complaints about it, and especially if it's a repeat thing, then they're really frustrated, right, with it. Then you may have the sales team, depending on what the product is, who they're getting the complaints on it, right? So then they're in there. So then they're trying to work with, the finance and operations part to how can we get this process to work. So it's a whole, slew of people who are involved in something that may have started here and it's showing up here, So that's what I like to say, is there's people across the organization that can really impact the user experience or customer experience. And so people have to be aware of that, even though they may not be in a customer facing role. What they do actually does impact.
So when we put our team together to explore this. We need to have people from all different departments
You're right.
because to have them understand how this affects you, how it affects you. It's not just, well, it's not us, it's them.
Right.
There
Yeah.
you go.
That's right.
Harmony in the workplace,
Yes, definitely.
cutting down on friction points.
Absolutely. That's right.
There you go, Lisa Dan. She is the expert out here. All right, so ma'am, how can people get to you?
You can reach me at my website, serviceease.net, on LinkedIn at Lisa D. Dance.
And you are the person, whether it is user experience or friction points in technology or people. Because today we talked about both of them.
Yeah, right there. People, the processes, and I'd say people, processes, and systems. So yeah, the whole thing.
There you go. What else, man? See, I know you got the talking points over there. Did we hit them?
Yeah, we hit them. I mean, because support calls are always a signal, but sometimes you may be not thinking of it as the person doesn't call and complain. They're just saying, "How do I do this?" So if you're getting a whole lot of calls of people saying, "How do I do this?" then that's an indication that something that could be better explained or an easier process.
There you go, Lisa Dan's the best out there. So, folks, for your business, whether it's people, whether it's the processes, take a look at that. What she does is comes in and explains and takes a look at it. You also talk about the data. A lot of time, people say that, what is it, the devil are in the numbers? And that's right. The